You mentioned that Symptoms in 2001 was probably to date still your favorite Good Riddance record. Is that still the case today?
I think so, or our most recent one. The most recent one I like a lot, and it's the first one that I wrote every song for, which I'd never done before. Usually I write most of the songs, and then Luke, our guitar player, will write like a chunk of songs that I write the lyrics for. But Luke was super busy. He had a combination of things going on in his personal and professional life, and he was down to do the record, but he just didn't have the time to give to writing songs. So I wrote all the songs for that, and just as a songwriter, like taking that on, and feeling that pressure, and feeling like I came through it okay, and had a pretty decent batch of material that felt pretty good. But I think Symptoms is more like, in my head, I think about that was probably like the height of our band's powers. And that was the first time that I really felt comfortable and confident about my songwriting and my singing, was recording that album. It was a big turning point for me. Because up until then, I'd kind of just would go in a studio and yell a bunch, and they would tell me I was flat, and like sooner or later they'd have a take, you know, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And it was frustrating a lot of times, because I'm just not a singer. Like, some people roll out of bed and they're just a good singer, you know what I mean? And I was just the guy that didn't know how to play anything when the band started, and like beat myself into a serviceable singer over many, many years with a lot of help from people like Bill.
If I'm correct, you were in a marching band playing snare when you met your original drummer for Good Riddance, and in high school, right? And was that the early 90s? Is that right?
We knew each other when we were like toddlers. We were neighbors.
Oh,
me
shit.
And our original drummer, yeah.
And ended up being a band together. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I played snare drum in the marching band. But when the band started, I didn't know how to play guitar or any of that stuff. Like, I taught myself how to do all those things. And so singing for me was always like I'm the singer, but like I don't know what I'm doing. And over the years I kind of learned what I was doing. And Symptoms was the first time I went in the studio with like some sort of confidence, and like, you know, like you've done the band thing, like singers sometimes, like when you don't want to hear your voice on playback, you take the headphones off, you're like, I don't want to hear that. And that was me up until Symptoms. And then I was just into it. It didn't bother me hearing my voice back. I was trying things. I was like, hey, let's try this. Let's experiment here. Like, it was a totally different attitude on my part. I turned some corner on that record where like I became more confident about my singing and songwriting. And I just always kind of remember that. And then also like that record, Fat, I remember pushed so hard. I was doing so many interviews. We toured, and we were in the weekly in every town. We moved to the next bigger venue in all the towns we played. It was like a noticeable shift for us, like upward, that I remember just was really kind of a cool year.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, people listening wouldn't know this, right, about your singing, you know, like if you're just listening to the music and not in the interviews and chats like this, it's like people who aren't musicians or anything like that might not understand that. But I find a lot of people, at least in the punk and hard rock scene, like don't really consider themselves singers. They were just kind of the only one that could kind of hold a tune for a little bit in the garage band days, and then kind of fell into it. And then for you, I mean, how many records was that? Was that 3-4 records before Symptoms then that it took for you to gain that confidence that you have now? I mean, you're a great vocalist, man. I love your style. I love the sound. It's awesome to hear.
Thank you.
You could talk about the punk rock influence. I've heard about the Dead Kennedys and Sex Pistols were early on. And then working with Bill Stevenson, did you have a lot of Milo influences on there? Because I could hear a little bit of that in the Only Crime stuff as well. Or was that just because the way the music was being written, it just kind of flowed easily into a style like that?
I think I was late to the Descendants party. Like I got into that band late, and I was dating a girl that loved the Descendants, and she loved All. And I went with her to see All in like this might have been 1990. Scott Reynolds was singing for All.
Okay.
And I was just starting to get into the Descendants music because I just, for some reason, I'd always kind of dismissed them as a college rock band without ever hearing them, like an idiot. And then I heard Live-Ish and I was like, fuck, this is great. This is like
such a good record.
These are killer tunes. They're punk and they're aggressive, but the singing's got this rad melody.
Right.
And I started getting into it. And Bill has always compared me to Milo. I'm not the singer Milo is by any means, but like the fact there's a little bit of an edge. Mm-hmm. Like you're going for melody, but there's a little bit of an edge.
Right.
What he calls barking Milo, like he says there's different types of Milo, like barking Milo. It's so like I've always kind of had that, and Bill brings that out of me. And so I forgot, I lost track of the question. But.
I was just talking about your influences and the
melodic, so like
and your barking side. I mean that makes perfect sense because you are so in all the music that I've heard you create. It is very melodic when it comes to the vocal melodies and the lines and stuff. But you do have that rasp. That I mean, for me, all of my favorite singers have that. I don't think there's too many of my favorite singers in any genre that just have a perfectly clean voice. There's always got to be a little distortion.
I mean, there's singers out there like Zoli, who was in Ignite, mm-hmm. like Scott Reynolds, like the guy that sang in Big Drill Car, that like it's clean, perfect. Like they're like legit singers. Like they were born to be singers. And like, I admire that. I could never do it. You know what I mean? Like I'm striving for melody. I'm trying not to just scream and yell.
Right.
I'm striving for melody, but my voice is just not, I'm just not that guy. And so my voice is just inherently has some edge to it. And so it seems to be, I kind of landed on Milo without really trying to.
Right.
Like kind of became that type of singer.
Yeah, I mean, if you came late to the party, it probably wasn't, as you said, like huge influence. It just kind of happened upon it. But it's a great one to happen upon.
I wanted to sing like Greg Graffin, just like everybody else.
There you go. There's another great one.
Didn't really pan out.